Imagine a creature so terrifying it had to be locked away in an inescapable maze. This isn't just a monster story. It is one of the most famous tales from Greek mythology, the story of the Minotaur of Crete. Deep within the island of Crete, a horrifying secret was born, a beast with the body of a man and the head of a bull. This was the Minotaur, a symbol of divine punishment and royal shame. The story begins with King Minos of Crete, a powerful ruler who wanted to prove his divine right to the throne. He prayed to Poseidon, the god of the sea, to send him a magnificent white bull from the waves. Minos promised he would sacrifice the bull in Poseidon's honor. Poseidon granted his wish, and a stunning bull emerged from the sea. But King Minos, captivated by the bull's beauty, decided to keep it for himself and sacrificed another one instead. This act of arrogance and deceit infuriated Poseidon. To punish Minos, Poseidon cast a spell on the king's wife, Queen Pasiphae, making her fall madly in love with the white bull. Consumed by this unnatural passion, the queen sought the help of Daedalus, the master craftsman and inventor of the court. Daedalus, in a moment of brilliant but terrifying engineering, constructed a hollow wooden cow. Pasiphae climbed inside, and the white bull was deceived. From this unholy union, the Minotaur was born. King Minos was horrified. The creature was a constant, living reminder of his wife's transgression and his own broken promise to a god. He couldn't kill it, as it was his stepson, but he couldn't let it roam free either. So, he once again commanded Daedalus to build a prison from which no one could escape. This was the legendary Labyrinth, a complex maze of winding corridors and dead ends, built beneath the palace of Knossos. The Minotaur was cast into the center of this architectural nightmare, destined to live in darkness and solitude. But the monster needed to be fed. After a war with Athens, King Minos imposed a gruesome tribute. Every 9 years, the city of Athens had to send 7 young men and 7 young women to Crete. These 14 youths were sent into the labyrinth as a sacrifice, to be hunted and devoured by the Minotaur. This cruel tax of human life cast a shadow of fear over Athens for years. The city mourned its lost children, powerless against the might of Crete. Then, a hero emerged. Theseus, the brave son of the Athenian king, could no longer bear his city's suffering. He volunteered to be one of the 7 young men, vowing to enter the labyrinth, kill the Minotaur, and end the bloody tribute once and for all. His father, King Aegeus, was heartbroken but reluctantly agreed, making Theseus promise that if he succeeded, he would change his ship's black sails to white on his return journey. When Theseus arrived in Crete, his courage and noble bearing caught the eye of Princess Ariadne, King Minos' daughter. She fell in love with him and couldn't stand the thought of him being killed by her monstrous half-brother. Secretly, she went to Daedalus, the labyrinth's creator, and asked for a way to help Theseus survive. Daedalus gave her a simple but ingenious solution: a ball of thread and a sword. Ariadne met Theseus before he entered the labyrinth. She gave him the sword and the ball of thread, instructing him to tie one end to the entrance and unravel it as he walked through the maze. This way, he could find his way back out after confronting the beast. With this crucial aid, Theseus plunged into the darkness of the labyrinth. Inside the twisting passages, he followed the sounds of the creature's roars until he came face to face with the Minotaur. A ferocious battle ensued, the hero against the monster, man against beast. Using his strength and the sword from Ariadne, Theseus fought and ultimately slayed the Minotaur, ending its reign of terror. Following the trail of thread, he navigated his way out of the labyrinth, leading the other Athenian tributes to safety. He quickly set sail for Athens with Ariadne, but the story takes another tragic turn. For reasons debated by historians for centuries, he abandoned her on the island of Naxos, and in his haste, or perhaps his grief, Theseus forgot to change the black sails to white. His father, King Aegeus, watching from a cliff, saw the black sails on the horizon and, believing his son was dead, threw himself into the sea in despair. That sea is now named the Aegean Sea in his memory. The tale of the Minotaur of Crete is more than just a myth about a monster. It's a timeless story about hubris, punishment, heroism, and sacrifice. It explores the dark side of human nature and the courage it takes to confront our greatest fears. These ancient myths continue to captivate us because they hold truths about our own world. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into Greek mythology, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories from the ancient world.
History isn't just what happened, it's what was hidden. Welcome to the Chrono Archives, where lost empires rise again, forgotten legends speak, and ancient truths are brought back to life. From world-shaping history and powerful myths to legendary rulers and timeless civilizations, every story here is carefully uncovered, deeply researched, and cinematically told. The past is calling, will you answer? Subscribe and journey through time, one unforgettable chronicle at a time.
In the ancient world, on the island of Crete, ruled the powerful King Minos. To secure his throne against his brothers, Minos prayed to Poseidon, the god of the sea, for a sign of divine favor. He asked for a magnificent white bull to emerge from the waves, promising to sacrifice it in the god's honor. Poseidon, pleased with the request, granted his wish, and a spectacular snow-white bull rose from the sea. The people of Crete were in awe, and Minos' claim to the throne was solidified. However, when the time came for the sacrifice, Minos was overcome by the bull's beauty. He couldn't bring himself to kill such a perfect creature. Instead, he kept the Cretan bull for his own herds and sacrificed a lesser bull in its place, hoping the god wouldn't notice. But gods always notice. Poseidon, enraged by this act of disrespect, devised a cruel and unnatural punishment. He cursed Pasiphae, Minos' wife, with an overwhelming and monstrous desire for the white bull. Driven by this divine madness, Queen Pasiphae sought the help of the master inventor and architect, Daedalus, who was then serving in the Cretan court. Desperate, she commanded him to build a device that would allow her to satisfy her cursed passion. Daedalus, a genius of unparalleled skill, constructed a hollow wooden cow, covered it with a real cowhide, and placed it in the meadow where the Cretan bull grazed. The queen hid inside the wooden cow, and the white bull, deceived by the contraption, mated with it. From this unnatural union, a horrifying creature was born. It had the body of a man, but the head and tail of a bull. This monstrous offspring was named Asterion, but he became known throughout the world by a more fearsome name, the Minotaur. As the Minotaur grew, so did its ferocity and its unnatural appetite for human flesh. It was a source of immense shame and terror for King Minos. Unwilling to kill the creature, yet unable to control it, Minos once again turned to Daedalus. He commanded his architect to design an inescapable prison to contain the monstrous beast. Daedalus, using all his ingenuity, constructed a vast and intricate maze beneath the palace of Knossos. This was the legendary Labyrinth of Crete, a bewildering network of winding passages and dead ends, so complex that once inside, no one could ever find their way out. The Minotaur was cast into the center of this dark, twisting prison, where its roars of rage and hunger would echo through the stone corridors for years to come. The myth of the Minotaur of Crete had begun, a tale of divine punishment and monstrous confinement. Soon, however, the problem of feeding the beast would draw another great city into Crete's dark secret. A few years earlier, King Minos' son, Androgeos, had traveled to Athens to compete in the Panathenaic Games. Being a supreme athlete, he won every event, which sparked jealousy and suspicion among the Athenians. On his way to Thebes, Androgeos was ambushed and killed. Furious and grief-stricken, King Minos declared war on Athens. With his powerful navy, he devastated the Athenian coast and laid siege to the city. The gods sided with Minos, plaguing Athens with famine and pestilence. Defeated and desperate, the Athenians consulted the Oracle of Delphi, who told them they must accept whatever terms King Minos demanded. Minos' price for peace was a grim tribute. Every 9 years, Athens was to send 7 of its noblest young men and 7 of its most beautiful maidens to Crete. These 14 youths were not to be slaves, but a sacrifice. Upon their arrival, they would be thrown into the labyrinth, one by one, to be hunted and devoured by the Minotaur. For 2 cycles, Athens paid this horrific price. The city mourned its lost children, living under a cloud of sorrow and fear. As the time for the 3rd tribute approached, a young hero emerged who could no longer bear his city's shame. This was Theseus, the son of the Athenian king, Aegeus. Though his father begged him not to go, Theseus was determined. He volunteered to be one of the 7 young men, vowing to his people and his father that he would enter the labyrinth, slay the Minotaur, and end the bloody tribute once and for all. He promised that if he was successful, the ship returning to Athens would fly white sails instead of its traditional black sails of mourning. King Aegeus reluctantly agreed, his heart filled with dread. Upon arriving in Crete, the Athenian tributes were paraded before King Minos and his court. It was there that Theseus first saw Princess Ariadne, the daughter of Minos. Struck by his heroic bearing and courage, Ariadne fell instantly in love with him. She knew that even if Theseus managed to defeat the Minotaur, a feat no one believed possible, he would still perish, lost forever in the endless maze. Unwilling to see the hero she loved meet such a fate, Ariadne decided to betray her father and her kingdom. That night, she secretly met with Theseus. Ariadne had sought advice from the only man who knew the labyrinth's secrets, its creator, Daedalus. He had given her a simple but ingenious solution. She presented Theseus with a sword to fight the beast and a ball of thread, now famously known as Ariadne's thread. She instructed him to tie one end of the thread to the entrance of the labyrinth and unravel it as he walked through its passages. After killing the Minotaur, he could simply follow the thread back to find his way out. In return for her help, she made Theseus promise to take her away from Crete and make her his wife. Theseus gratefully accepted her gifts and swore his oath. The next day, the Athenian youths were led to the entrance of the labyrinth. Theseus was the first to enter. Securing the thread to the great stone door, he plunged into the darkness, the ball of string unwinding behind him. He navigated the disorienting corridors, the silence broken only by the distant, terrifying roars of the beast. He ventured deeper and deeper, following the sounds of rage until he reached the heart of the labyrinth. There, in a central chamber littered with the bones of past victims, he found the Minotaur. The creature was a terrifying sight, a massive, muscular brute with the snarling face of a bull. A fierce battle ensued. The Minotaur charged, its horns aimed to kill, but Theseus was quick and agile. He dodged the beast's attacks, using the sword Ariadne had given him. The fight was long and brutal, echoing through the stone maze. Finally, with a heroic effort, Theseus overpowered the mythical creature. He thrust his sword deep into the Minotaur, ending its monstrous life and Crete's reign of terror. The beast fell, and silence returned to the labyrinth. His mission was complete. Wounded but victorious, Theseus turned and began to follow the lifeline Ariadne had given him. The simple thread led him back through the impossible maze, turn by turn, until he emerged from the darkness into the light of day. The other Athenian tributes, waiting in terror near the entrance, greeted him with joyous relief. True to his word, Theseus found Ariadne, and together with the other Athenians, they secretly boarded their ship and set sail for Athens under the cover of night. They had escaped Crete and its terrible king. However, their journey home was fraught with its own tragedy. Accounts vary, but the most common version of the myth says they stopped on the island of Naxos. There, Theseus abandoned Ariadne while she slept. Some say the god Dionysus appeared to him in a dream and commanded him to leave her, as she was destined to be the god's own bride. Others say Theseus was simply faithless. Whatever the reason, Ariadne awoke to find herself alone on a foreign shore. Back in Athens, King Aegeus stood every day on the cliffs, anxiously scanning the horizon for his son's ship. In his haste and excitement after defeating the Minotaur, or perhaps his grief over leaving Ariadne, Theseus forgot his promise. He failed to change the black sails to white. From a distance, Aegeus saw the black sails of morning approaching the coast. Believing his beloved son was dead, the king was overcome with despair and threw himself from the cliffs into the sea below. That sea, to this day, is named the Aegean Sea in his honor. Theseus returned not as a triumphant hero, but to a city in mourning for a king his own forgetfulness had killed. He became the new king of Athens, but his victory would forever be stained by this personal tragedy. And so, the great tale of ancient myths concludes, leaving a legacy of heroism, betrayal, and sorrow. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into Greek mythology, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell for more stories about mythical creatures and legendary heroes. So, what are we to make of the Minotaur of Crete? Is he just a monster, a footnote in the adventures of Theseus? Or is there something more lurking in the shadows of this ancient legend? The tale of the Minotaur is more than just a thrilling story from Greek mythology. It's a powerful exploration of our own inner darkness. Think about it. The Minotaur wasn't born a monster by choice. He was the product of a queen's forbidden desire and a king's hubris, a living symbol of secrets and shame, hidden away from the world. He was trapped, not just within the twisting corridors of the labyrinth, but within a body he never asked for. This maze, the labyrinth itself, is one of the most potent symbols ever conceived. It represents the complex, confusing, and often terrifying journey we all take into our own minds. It's the place where we confront our fears, our insecurities, and the parts of ourselves we'd rather keep locked away. Getting lost in the labyrinth isn't just about losing your way physically. It's about losing yourself to despair, to confusion, to the monster within. And who is this monster? The Minotaur embodies our most primal, untamed instincts. The rage, the hunger, the shame. He is the beast that society, and we ourselves, try to suppress. King Minos thought he could control this beast by building walls around it, by feeding it the innocent youths of Athens. But you can't just wall off your problems. They fester, they grow, and eventually, they demand to be faced. That's where Theseus comes in. He isn't just a hero slaying a beast. He's a symbol of courage and clarity. He bravely ventures into the darkness, not with brute force alone, but with a plan, a thread of hope given to him by Ariadne. That thread is crucial. It represents logic, love, and the connections that guide us through our darkest times. It reminds us that we don't have to face our inner demons alone. When Theseus kills the Minotaur, it's not just a victory over a mythical creature. It's a symbolic act of conquering the beast within, of bringing light into the darkness, of mastering one's own chaotic nature. But the story doesn't give us a simple, happy ending, does it? Theseus abandons Ariadne, the very person who helped him succeed. His father dies because of a simple, tragic mistake. It's a stark reminder that even after we face our greatest fears, the journey isn't over. Life is complex, and our actions, even heroic ones, have consequences. The legacy of the Minotaur of Crete echoes through the ages. This powerful tale from Greek mythology has inspired countless works of art, literature, and film because it speaks to a fundamental truth about the human condition. We all have a labyrinth inside us. We all have a potential monster we must confront. These ancient legends aren't just fantastic stories about heroes and mythical creatures, they are maps to understanding ourselves. The Minotaur forces us to ask difficult questions. What parts of ourselves do we hide away? What are the labyrinths we construct in our own lives? And most importantly, do we have the courage to face what's at the center? The story reminds us that true heroism isn't about being fearless. It's about facing your fear, armed with reason, connection, and the will to find your way back to the light. The Minotaur is dead, but the myth, and the profound questions it raises, will live forever. What do you think? Is the Minotaur a tragic victim or a mindless monster? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're fascinated by the power of Greek mythology and other ancient legends, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next journey into the past. Thanks for watching.
As we close this chapter of the Chrono Archives, remember, the past is never truly gone. It waits patiently in the shadows of forgotten ruins, in the echoes of ancient voices, and in the timeless lessons that still guide us today. It waits to be remembered by curious minds like yours. Thank you for joining us on this extraordinary journey through the annals of time. If today's exploration of lost civilizations, mythical legends, or historical enigmas ignited your passion for the past, hit that like button. Drop a comment with your favorite moment or what you'd love to see next, and most importantly, subscribe to the Chrono Archives and continue the journey through time. Turn on notifications so you never miss an episode where we unearth buried secrets, decode ancient mysteries, and bring history's greatest stories back to life. Together, we'll keep the flame of the past burning bright. Until next time, fellow time travelers, keep questioning, keep discovering, and keep remembering. The Chrono Archives, where the past lives forever.